American beech is a native species. It's a beautiful species. It's an important species. It has a prominent history in the forests of the Northeast and the eastern United States. It's a tree that grows from the maritime provinces of Canada down the eastern coast and then west through the Midwest and in lesser amounts into the upper Midwest of the Lake States. Unfortunately, in the early 1900s, there was an insect that was brought into North America, and that insect is called a scale insect. You can see these small white patches are a waxy covering that protect the insect, so that's not actually the insect, it's a protective coating. And what that scale insect does is it pierces into the bark of the American beech and it pulls sap out. So it's trying to get nutrition from the sap. In the process of doing that, it injects a chemical so that the tree does not realize that the tree has been attacked. If a tree thinks it's been attacked or wounded, it will start a defensive process and eventually move towards a compartmentalization. The scale insect prevents the tree from recognizing it has been attacked. The problem then is that separate from this insect, and the insect is not native to North America, there's also a fungus that is not native to North America, and that is able to colonize that area where the insect has been. So we get these pock marks, they're called pock marks, where the fungus has started to grow, and you get those in multiple locations all up and down the stem of the tree, and then those start to grow. They grow underneath the bark, and then eventually they kill that section of bark. As that progresses, whole sections of trees will become infected with what's called a beech bark disease or beech bark decline. So it's the combination of two different organisms, the scale insect that's followed by the fungus. The tree becomes infected, the stem of the tree dies. It may form up one entire side, it may go all the way around the tree. Eventually the tree dies. When the tree dies, it redistributes the growth hormones into the root system, and that root system then sends up root suckers, and those root suckers can form dense thickets of sprouts that are genetically identical to the parent tree. So the parent tree is susceptible to the scale insect and to the fungus. Those root suckers or vegetative sprouts are also going to be susceptible. There are some trees that are naturally resistant because of their genetic makeup. They're not susceptible to some combination of the insect or the fungus. Those beech trees are delightful trees. And so if we're managing our woods and you find diseased trees that are in the vicinity of trees that have no evidence of the scale and no evidence of the fungus, those trees might be genetically resistant to the disease. So those should be favored, those should be retained. These trees should be managed. American beech is a beautiful native species, common throughout much of the northeastern United States. And the unfortunate thing is that there's a disease complex, an insect and fungus complex that's killing most of the American beech. American beech will sprout from the root systems and form what are called clones. So you might have a group of, in this case we have about 5 trees this size or larger that all have these same bark characteristics. So these are all probably developing from the same root system. So that's a clone, they're genetically identical. About 1% of the clones are estimated to be resistant or tolerant to beech bark disease. So this is an example of what appears to be a resistant clone. As we look on the bark, we don't see any evidence of the scale insect. and we don't see any evidence of the fungal bodies. So we have to have the scale insect before we have the fungus. These trees have none of those. So this is pretty exciting. These would be trees that we would want to retain. It's a wonderful wildlife species. They'll produce beech nuts that are high in protein, valuable for hundreds of different wildlife species. And it's an important part of maintaining a healthy forest ecosystem is to keep these. Now the good news is you can cut these beech trees because, as we know from beech, if you cut it, it's going to send up sprouts, and those sprouts are genetically identical. So if you end up cutting these beech trees, you're going to have a thicket of what we assume would be resistant beech trees.